day, everyone. Our topic today is Rule 8, Action to Avoid Collision under Colreg 1972. But before that, let's dive more into the Colreg as a whole. Out of a total of 69 international maritime conventions, Malaysia has ratified 31, reflecting its commitment to global maritime safety and regulatory standards. Among these is the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, 1972, Colreg's 1972. The Colreg Convention entered into force internationally on 15 July 1977, after fulfilling the global ratification requirements under Article 4. Malaysia later ratified the convention on 23 December 1980, and it simultaneously entered into force domestically on the same date. This adoption ensured that Malaysia fully aligned its navigation and collision prevention rules with internationally recognized standards enforced worldwide. The government implemented the Colreg in Malaysian law through Section 252 of the Merchant Shipping Ordinance 1952, MSO 1952. This serves as the foundational statutory authority that allows Malaysia to domestically implement the global rules for preventing collisions at sea, primarily the Colreg 1972. Specifically, Subsection 1 empowers the Minister of Transport to create collision regulations, which dictate the necessary lights, fog signals, and steering and sailing rules for ships, granting these regulations the full legal effect as if they were directly enacted into the ordinance itself. Subsection 2 then establishes the universal scope of these rules, mandating that they must be observed by all vessels on the high seas and in all connected, navigable waters, ensuring compliance for both Malaysian and foreign vessels navigating in the region. Finally, Subsection 3 ensures enforcement by prescribing a significant penalty, a fine not exceeding Rm 10,000, for any master who fails to comply with the regulations, thereby providing the legal teeth necessary to uphold navigational safety standards. Alongside the collision regulations, Section 81 of the MSO 1952 addresses the accessibility of information. This section mandates that every shipowner is legally required to guarantee that the latest and most relevant documents, including Malaysian legislation, notices, international rules, publications, and other papers related to maritime transport safety, security, and the marine environment, are readily accessible on the ship. The power to specify the exact list of required legislations and publications is given to the Director of Marine, who communicates this official list through Malaysia Shipping Notices, MSNs. Failure by the owner to comply with this requirement constitutes a criminal offense. Upon conviction, the owner is liable to pay a substantial fine not exceeding 25,000 ringgit, Rm 25,000, for each ship where the offense occurred. The MSN involved is Malaysia Shipping Notice, MSN 11/2023, issued by the Marine Department Malaysia, Jabatan Laut Malaysia. This notice serves a crucial administrative function to inform all relevant maritime stakeholders, including ship owners, masters, seafarers, and port operators, about the gazettement, formal publication, of an amendment to the National Collision Regulations. Now back to our topic, Rule 8, Action to Avoid Collision. Before any vessel can apply Rule 8, Rules 1 and 2 provide the foundation for how the Colregs operate. Rule 1 defines where the regulations apply, namely to all vessels on the high seas and in all connected navigable waters, and allows governments to create special local rules for harbors, rivers, inland waterways, naval vessels, and fishing fleets, as long as these remain consistent with the Colregs. It also permits the IMO to adopt traffic separation schemes and allows certain vessels of special construction to comply as closely as possible when full compliance is impractical. Rule 2 emphasizes that nothing in the Colregs excuses a vessel, its master, or crew from responsibility for negligence, and that mariners must consider the ordinary practice of seamen, navigational dangers, and special circumstances that may justify departing from the rules to avoid immediate danger. Rule 5 mandates that every vessel must maintain a proper lookout using all available means, sight, hearing, radar, AIS, etc., to ensure early detection of risks. Following this, Rule 6 requires proceeding at a safe speed, which must be assessed against numerous factors, including visibility, traffic, maneuverability, and environmental conditions, to guarantee the vessel can take effective avoidance action and stop in time. Finally, Rule 7 requires that all available means are used to determine if a risk of collision exists, with the critical provision that any doubt must result in the assumption that a risk does exist. Only after these requirements are met can the vessel proceed to execute an appropriate avoidance maneuver. Once these foundational requirements are met, the vessel applies Rule 8. In this rule, the Convention explains exactly how a vessel must act when a risk of collision has been identified. Rule 8 states, A. Any action to avoid collision shall be taken in accordance with the rules of this part and shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, be positive, made in ample time and with due regard to the observance of good seamanship. Any alteration of course and/or speed to avoid collision shall, if the circumstances admit, be large enough to be readily apparent to another vessel observing visually or by radar. A succession of small alterations should be avoided. C. If there is sufficient sea room, alteration of course alone may be the most effective action to avoid a close-quarters situation, provided it is made in good time, substantial, and does not result in another close-quarters situation. D. Action taken shall result in passing at a safe distance. The effectiveness of the action shall be carefully checked until the other vessel is finally passed and clear. A vessel shall slacken speed or take all way off by stopping or reversing propulsion, if necessary, to avoid collision or allow more time to assess the situation. F1. A vessel which by any of these rules is required not to impede the passage or safe passage of another vessel shall, when required by the circumstances of the case, take early action to allow sufficient sea room for the safe passage of the other vessel. F2. A vessel required not to impede the passage or safe passage of another vessel is not relieved of this obligation if approaching the other vessel so as to involve risk of collision, and shall, when taking action, have full regard to the action which may be required by rules of this part. F3. A vessel the passage of which is not to be impeded remains fully obliged to comply with the rules of this part when the two vessels are approaching one another so as to involve risk of collision. In conclusion, the Colregs 1972 provide a comprehensive framework to ensure safe navigation and prevent collisions at sea, with Rule 8 serving as a critical component that guides vessels on appropriate actions when a risk of collision arises. Malaysia's ratification of the Convention demonstrates its commitment to aligning domestic maritime operations with international safety standards. By emphasizing preparedness, vigilance, and decisive action, the rules not only protect individual vessels, but also foster a culture of shared responsibility and good seamanship across the maritime community. Adherence to these regulations ensures that navigation is conducted safely, efficiently, and with respect for all vessels, ultimately safeguarding lives, property, and the marine environment.
That's all for a video. Thank you. See you in the next video.